So, I've been thinking that it might be a fun project to make a desktop display just from the top of the time machine. So let's move in closer. The part I'm talking about would be just this part here and the flashing lights. Something that you could set on a desktop or countertop, or I guess you could bolt it to the handlebars of your motorcycle if you wanted to. But I'm thinking about maybe making a little bit of the black case here around it that has a flat bottom, and all the pieces separately. And this is what I've come up with so far. Let's get in here closer. Like so. I've got it running on a USB cable, so it could run on anything from 4.5 volts up to 15. You would just adjust your current limiting resistors for the LEDs that I have in there flashing. I guess the feedback that I need is if there's enough people interested to make it worth doing this multi-part video on this project. I would cover at least 3 different ways of making the wire cages. That's going to be one of the hardest parts. We can 3D print the domes. In fact, everything you see here is 3D printed except for these wired cages right now. And I'm just running it off a power bank. You could plug it into your computer, or if you didn't want anything separate, there's enough room under the housing here that you could put 3 AA batteries and run it off batteries if you wanted to. Or if it was something you had on your desk and you wanted it on all the time, you could run it off either a 5-volt charger like you use for anything these days, or a 12-volt, well, any voltage you want, you know. Most common is going to be 5 and 12, and a wall wart type thing. So I could cover all the different aspects of doing this, places where you could get the parts printed in case you don't own a printer and don't want to print but want to make one, and all the steps involved in doing. Like I say, this is the OG way on the cage. It is actually made from wire and soldered and bent, and I can cover how to do that in a single video, and I can cover ways that these can be 3D printed. I'm looking into finding out what the cost would be to have them actually 3D printed in metal, plus 3D printed in resin, or FDM 3D printed, which would be the cheapest but also the hardest. And I can get into that when we do a build video on that. Now, as far as the domes go, I 3D printed them in translucent materials. The super bright LEDs that I'm using here from the dollar store. Timing circuits, very inexpensive, I found online. I can turn you onto those. This piece, and the way it's built, like I say, we get into this into a complete project. There's 2 screws that hold this piece, because that's painted as one color, that go to the next piece underneath, which is painted in one color, which then screw into this piece, which is painted in 2 colors, mainly gold, and then there's some green trim. And that way they can all be taken apart or hooked together. And then this whole piece can screw to this bottom piece. You can do that. Now maybe you're building a whole time machine. Since this is full scale and will fit the machine, you don't have to print this desktop base piece in black that I did. The curve here would be right, and there are mounting holes in the bottom, and you could screw this to a complete console if you wanted. And by the way, all of these parts were printed on my Bamboo Lab A1 Mini. So this piece I did in 2 pieces. Now if you have a larger printer, you could certainly print this piece as one piece, and you wouldn't have this one little seam. And there's a seam on the black one too, since I printed them on the A1 Mini, which is a very small printer. Of course, the drawback to printing large pieces on an FDM printer is it can take a long time if you print them vertically, which is the way you want to print these so that you don't get layer lines and things like that. But again, that would all be in the video. So I just need a lot of feedback. I need you guys to share this video with people that you think might be interested in this project. I want to see enough comments saying, yeah, this is something cool, let's do it, or yeah, I'd been interested in doing it, whatever, to make it worth the while for me to do a 3, 4, maybe a 5-part series on all the ways of making the parts and where to get the parts made if you want to do it yourself, and blah blah blah, and posting the STL files. You know, it's a lot of work. I don't get paid from YouTube. I don't monetize. I don't do Patreon, so I never get any money back from anything that I do, and so far no one is giving me anything and supporting me. So when I do these sorts of things, it's just a labor of love, and I'm giving. So the most I'm going to ask back from you guys is find some support, leave some comments. If I read them and it makes me feel like it's worth putting all the effort and time into it, then we'll do a series on this. If it's something you think it might be cool to have sitting on one of your shelves in the background or on your desktop or who knows where. Or like I say, you've got a nice curve there. Of course, you could make a new plate to fit the curve. You could bolt it to anything. It might look good on the handlebars of your motorcycle or EV bike or something too. Or even over the back rear fender flare. Who knows?